to, well, what I would call the local economy lens, the lens in which we see personal responsibility as the order of the day and count less and less on the work and legislation and programs and outlays of the good people for our success. In other words, can we live in the future? Can we prosper without government, with less government activity, with less government intervention? That's my question. Now, I have on the phone a caller, Eric is his name, in Hickson, and he's asking me a question that I'm not clear exactly what the question is. He was trying to tell me in one sentence. I said, give it to me in one sentence when we had our important commercial announcements. And so Eric, tell my listener the question that you have that you want to put forth to him. What is the question? What is the issue? You're telling me about a fatal car accident on 111, which is northwest of Saudi Daisy, going over the mountain toward Pikeville and Dunlap. What happened? What's your problem, Eric?
My question is, why do the rules apply to some and not to others? This was a fatal accident where it was known that the driver, the cause of the accident, was intoxicated. He was not given a breathalyzer. He refused a breathalyzer and walked away from the crash, went on about his business, has been for the last month. There's been no charges brought against him. You know, the local police department say they're waiting on, toxicology reports and this and that. Well, my understanding is if an officer believes that you are inebriated or intoxicated or has suspicion that you are, and you refuse a breathalyzer, you have brought forth a separate set of charges under implied consent. Your license is pulled, second set of charges. In this case, that has not happened. This person hit somebody head on going north in the southbound lane, killed a man, and is walking around like nothing ever happened. No charges have been pressed. There's been no processing of arrest through the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. There's been no bail record, nothing. And I guess my problem is, had that been a standard citizen like myself or anybody in my family, we would be under the jail still without a decent attorney or any kind of legal representation. At minimum, we would have had an arrest and then been bailed out. In this case, the cause of this accident is a reserve sheriff's off deputy. He's a former EMS for the county, and it's sickening to me as a citizen to watch this case unfold and watch the family grieving, knowing what happened, and law enforcement is basically, from the outside looking in, is protecting this person.
Well, let me ask you your sources of information. I'm looking here as you're chatting with my listener, Eric, on Google on the news function, and I've typed in fatal accident Highway 111 Hamilton County alcohol as my search words, and nothing comes up immediately. What is your news source on this crash?
So the source of information for anybody is obviously the news responded, Channel 3 and Channel 9. So there's pictures of the vehicles, there's pictures of everything. The second is the arresting office, which would be Saudi Daisy. This person had, at 5:45 in the morning, had a head-on collision going northbound in the southbound lanes of 111, killed a man, and was not given a breathalyzer. Now, the source for that information is, if he would have been given a breathalyzer, he would have failed. The police department admitted that he refused a breathalyzer, which means implied consent rules, and he would have been charged right then. So if you go look at the arrest records, everything is cycled through Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. He wasn't arrested, and there's no bond record. So,
well, now here's how you, my listener, can help with this information. Now, we're talking with Eric in Hickson, who has information that I'm not finding readily available. Doing a search pattern on some of the words that some of the key words that he has mentioned here to you, my listener, and our station is about you reporting and the world deciding. So we're trying to decide something here, Eric, that we want to find out more. We would like to kind of verify what you're saying. And when did this accident occur?
It occurred approximately 5:45 a.m. on July 2nd.
Okay, and you're saying it was reported by two TV stations here,
Channel 3 and Channel 9,
okay.
Both.
Well, all right. I'm not seeing that on my search, and not sure why. But so
it would have been. It's close to a month ago that it would have came through, but it was broadcasted via their web page and their social media pages on the 2nd. By the afternoon.
Well, I'm very glad you've called me, and that we are here to find out about these things that we've missed. There's a lot of news going on, and Marie Maud and I and our news staff we're trying to keep up and focus on the things that are really important. The most recent story that we've covered in that realm. In fact, I went up on Monday or Tuesday up on 111 last week to look at and find out as much as I could about what I would call the execution of the woman in the car who was trapped in the woods, and the officers were all around her. They had her trapped, and yet she had to have her life forfeit because the officer feared for his life. He projected under the statute that she was a threat, a life threat to him and other people, and so he deemed it necessary that her life be forfeit. Without there having been a finding of any offense worthy of capital punishment. So we have capital punishment summary form by a Red Bank police officer, and so now there's this investigation by the TBI and the Sheriff's Department of Hamilton County, and probably Neil Pinkston, the DA, the prosecutor, will be passing on this, and there'll be a story constructed that will make it all very reasonable that it had to happen. It had to happen under the statute. And we have another state actor, Eric, who's given a pass. And well, the question is really kind of a larger question, and that is the love that American people have for the executive state. There is this. If you are part of the executive state, the state that executes its will upon the people, these kinds of things just have to be accepted. And here you are telling about an official in the special class of blue who is not held to account like you would be, right, Eric? That's your complaint, is that if it were you.
This is what is astonishing to me, David, is at 5:45 in the morning, a gentleman has been drinking all night. He called into 911 himself. It's recorded. He admitted he'd been drinking all night and stated that he was no longer drunk, but he just, for whatever reason, felt like he needed to make that clear to 911 dispatch. He hit somebody head on, killed a father of four, a husband, a son, a brother, and this person refuses a breathalyzer after calling in and admitting he's been drinking all night and walks away. And 30 days later, there's no charges pending. Saudi says there's charges pending, but they don't release any data. They openly admit he refused a breathalyzer. They didn't charge him with implied consent. And he's going about his life, driving, still conducting his daily business just the same. And in what unnerves me, I don't care if it's an executive, what state it is. It's not common decency to put anybody in a class that one person would be swept under the jail if this were to happen, and another person walks completely free. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's by chance that this person is affiliated with the police departments, with the EMS, with the Sheriff's Department. He's killed a man. Why not the minimal steps? Why have the minimal steps not been taken? Why not the minimal amount of responsibility afforded to law enforcement to deal with this type of investigation, this type of accident? Why have they not been implied?
Yeah, where are the good cops to say, Eric, where are the good cops to say, hey, here's one of our own members who clearly has breached his duty, and he's breached the rules of equity and justice by taking the life of another person in a neglectful manner, and one would have to say that there must be some element of willfulness in in getting in a car when you're inebriated, which weighs a ton, and you're moving 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour down the street. You can't control that. You are willfully negligent. So that's, that is a life altering tort. I mean, I would say that would probably be meriting of capital punishment if we had a more biblical and more equitable legal system in our country. That's a capital offense to take someone's life like that, knowingly.
The thing about it,
inebriated,
too, David, is the questions that we have asked, and I will say there are good people associated with law enforcement, with EMS, that have come forward privately, and so this is not a strike against police in general or anybody of authority in general. This is a strike against the right and wrong thing. And somebody has clearly, like you say, willfully neglected their responsibility in society, got behind the wheel of a car intoxicated, and killed a man. And it's the responsibility of our local, state, federal law enforcement, whoever, to bring this person to task. So far, we've prodded, we've asked questions, the attorneys have asked questions, and these law enforcement departments won't even answer it.
Well, let me ask you this, Eric. You have knowledge that seems to me beyond what someone like me would have just reading press reports. Are you in some way connected with the victim, Eric?
No, I did not know the victim before this accident.
Well, let me ask you a question. You're the kind of person I think I want my listener to be like you, to ask these questions. How is it that you've come about this information? Why do you care so much about this killing? What drives you to assemble this information and call me about this? I mean, it's clearly something on your mind, and clearly you've done some reporting. It sounds like
community. Northern Hamilton County, we're a smaller community. Okay, there's a lot of good people that live in this area, and what bothers me about it is I'm 42 years old. Okay, I've got two sons. I look at the world, and the biggest problem that I see is not difference of opinions or political stance or anything like that. It's having the courage to stand up, no matter what, do the right thing, and tell the truth. Doesn't matter if it sacrifices your belief, if it's something that you never thought about. There is a wrong and a right thing to do. In this case, what connected me to it immediately is, it's a small community, and we're connected in some way, knowing each other through chance or whatever. But the fact that this person has taken somebody's father, has taken somebody's husband through a selfish act of inebriation, that has a monitoring of self, and decided to get into a car and put themselves above anything that could happen. And unfortunately, in this case, it's worst case scenario. Hit somebody head on and killed them instantly. It's enough is enough. And, it's a sad story in and of itself. But when you start to find out that the number one step that local law enforcement should have taken when he denied a breathalyzer, which is implied consent, which is he's refused the breathalyzer. Tennessee, you probably know more legally about this than I do. Yeah, Tennessee has one of the strictest laws in the nation about refusing a breathalyzer. They did nothing about that. That tells me.
Right. Well, let's just hang on right there for a second. Hold on, just a second, so the listener can understand. Let's just explain it. Under implied consent, if you're a driver, you're an operator of a car, you're under that law, Title 55. You have given because you have the license, you're a licensee. You have given ahead of time consent. If you have the license, the privilege, the piece of plastic that's the magical card. If you have that card, you've already agreed to give a breathalyzer test. The mechanical sensor of your breath coming out that would measure alcohol content. You've already given that consent. And so if you have an encounter with the officer or an accident, and he says, I would like to take a breathalyzer on suspicion of driving under the influence, and you say no, you're violating the terms of the agreement, right, Eric? You've agreed already to give
I understand Title 55 somewhat, and by handing your driver's license and your data over to the officer, you've now entered in, you've solidified that contract.
Right. You are bound by the agreement, and you're bound by, you're a driver and operator. You have to give that consent. So if you don't allow him to put that little nozzle on your mouth, right, to test to see if your breath has alcohol on it, you are you're essentially rejecting his authority and rejecting your own agreement. You've made an agreement to give it, and now you're not doing it. So they have every right, every authority to take that license from you and to ban you from being a driver. They have a right to take your car, I would think, and to ban you from driving. Period. A total ban.
It's a 1 year minimum revocation of license,
right?
Unless legally you can prove otherwise. So if you were able to get into the court and resolve it quicker than a year, you'll get your license back as soon as that's
right. And of course, that license.
Up until then,
go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Up until then, you're bound by your own action. You refuse this breathalyzer, and you'll suffer what Tennessee's law says. And that is a minimum. You're immediately arrested. Your license is immediately suspended for 1 year or until legally resolved. And this didn't happen. I mean, this is not something that, officers can't play that. Oh, we didn't know. That's a real tricky law. That's an obscure thing. No, they use that law all the time against people that they wish to use it against. Now, when it comes to one of their own, we're seeing pretty clearly in the case of vehicular homicide, this person just walked away.
And this person, you're suggesting, Eric, my caller from Hickson, may still be on the road right now, maybe using the road as
It's 100% definite. The concerned citizens of our community and of our county have formed our own investigative team.
Wow.
Because it makes us sick to our stomach.
I want to hear more about Eric, this is exciting. Tell me more about this group. What are you looking at? How did you get formed? What was the catalyst to make you form a little group to pursue these issues? This is very significant and very encouraging. Tell me more.
Well, because like I listen to your program quite a bit, and not necessarily the flagrant challenging of authority for no reason, but these things need to be addressed moving forward. Why do certain people in our society get a higher standard of treatment in regards to the law? When one person breaks the law, they're punished per the law, and another one, because he might be a police officer or a sheriff's officer, he walks away completely. It's not something that I can look at my children or my future grandchildren or my nieces, and I can't look at them with a straight face and say, that's just how the world is. Now, maybe up to this point, I can't speak for the past, but, somebody's got to pick up this torch like you have, like a lot of your listeners have, and start demanding accountability. These people, they are on our payroll. We pay them.
You are absolutely right. And Eric, sometimes I don't like to call a person who's on the police department a public servant, but that's language in the statute. The statute calls employees of the state and of cities as they're called public servants or civil servants. They are servants. And you're saying, well, boy, if these people work for the state and ostensibly the state belongs to us, which I don't think it really does, but we think it does kind of poetically, we are responsible for them doing the right thing. And if a public servant or a civil servant has done a clear evil and wrong, how is it that he's not being held to account? How is it that he's still using the road and presumably he's a driver and operator under license? How is it that license has not been properly withdrawn so that this man can be held to account and not use the road? He clearly can't be a driver and operator because he's violated the terms of his agreement and killed somebody. And so you are right to be angry.
This is how seated they are in their complacency. And it's just the way we say, it's just the way we do it, and you're just whatever a person. We call the shots. Is when called and asked about why has this not been released, this data. Why has there not been some form of legal action taken against? Oh, we're waiting on the blood test. Well, why are you waiting on the blood test? Well, because you refused the breathalyzer. They've incriminated themselves. And they do this out in the open. So it's got to the point where, it cannot be acceptable. It's better to go down in flames trying to do the right thing than to be beat on your knees. It's just
I agree with you. At that
point where it's like somebody's got to say something. There has to be vigilance in a community to check these people.
And Eric, listen,
no matter what they say, they are our servants. They are funded by our tax dollars.
Listen, you're doing the absolute. Eric, listen, thanks very much for calling. I appreciate it very much. Don't hang it up on me. Hang on. This is David Lewis, and Eric is telling us a story, and he's very concerned, and he's doing what I want you, my listener, to do. Okay, take charge. Chattanooga, Hamilton County, 30 Days of Red Bank, East Ridge belongs to you. You, my listener, take charge, make good things happen, make sure that the law is followed. I think that's an important question. Make sure the law is followed and that justice is done. David Toole.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
Assessor of property Marty Haynes denied accusations that he gave special tax break favors to GOP candidate Esther Helton. Jonathan Mason, Helton's GOP opponent, says it's not an accusation